Thank you very much, everyone. Before I launch anything, I've got an envelope here with all your names in it, and what I'll do at the end of my bit, I'll just pick a name out of it, and you can just give maybe whoever I pick out, maybe a 2-minute summary of what I say, if that's okay. Now, of course, I am joking. But I'm only joking because, of course, we're smelling food. Everyone's basically thinking probably food. How long is this guy going to go on for? Blah, 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 blah. At least you're back in the room, at least for 5 seconds. So all I can say is looking out to this beautiful place in which we are, one of the world's most beautiful places, in fact, is how blessed and lucky I am, not only to be invited to what I regard in many ways as being the future of what a lot of our industry will be, but also to share thoughts and time, a nice time with you all. I want to thank John for the invitation. And all I'm going to do really is for the next 20 or so minutes, I'm going to take you through a little bit of my journey in broadcasting, explain a little bit about where my headspace is, hopefully have a bit of fun on the way, and then some Q&As at the end. And also, I've got a bit of Irish content animation to show at the end. So, who am I? I'm Tim Patterson. I'm the Vice President and Director of Programming for Nickelodeon UK and Ireland. I look after those channels, and I have a team of people that look after everything from acquisition, commissioning and development of shows through to the scheduling and forecasting and planning. I've got a compliance team, an access services team, and they're the crew that actually sort out bits for deaf and blind to ensure that they can appreciate our product as much as anyone else. We've got a multi-platform team, a media planning team, and then we do some operational stuff. So there's quite a lot that goes on in my world. My favourite bit, if there is a favourite bit, is talking with you, the creative community. The fact that I think I'm one of the luckiest guys in the world, given what I do and given the job that I have, is fantastic. It gets me out of bed in the morning at 5:30, and I love every minute of it. Actually, that's a complete lie. 70% of it I love, 30% of it is a complete pain. But the good bits outweigh the other bits. But it didn't all start like that. Let's have a think. So actually, some of you won't have a clue what this is. It's a test card. It's the way it plays, but it's a test card. So when I was little, when I was sort of, in theory, what would have been watching the equivalent of Nickelodeon, basically Watch with Mother probably, I was dancing to the test card. There were 2 channels, and then a channel that wasn't, or BBC 2 I think it was, that wasn't on at the time. It had this on. Played music, and I used to just dance around the room to this. I was happy. Things I know have changed. Anyway, the other reason why that's up there is BBC was my first ever job. And again, it's a bit of lady luck, I suppose. At school and I didn't really agree with each other. I daydreamed a lot, I suppose, and my school, a lovely school, but it was very focused on just classic education. Art was not really hugely part of the curriculum at that point. And school and I just didn't really kind of work out. So at 17, I decided that I wanted to do wildlife photography. I loved it. I loved nature, which is why it's so gorgeous. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to become a wildlife photographer. That's what I thought. So someone said to me, look, get a job at the BBC, as one does, and you can, do a bit of stuff there, and then go to Bristol and join David Attenborough in his journey in the wildlife arena. So, 17, managed to get there was a job that came up. It was a clerical job. The job was so junior that it was called CO2. That in my mind was carbon dioxide. That was weird in itself. And I think it was so lowly, I don't think the job exists anymore. Anyway, the point is that I was there in London, sitting on the steps outside Broadcasting House of I think it's All Souls Church. And I remember it was a hot day, and there was a guy walking across the zebra crossing. He had a load of boxes and kind of like a trolley type thing, and he was wheeling it over. It was hot. He was looking hot, and I thought, thank Christ, I'm not going to be doing that. You can kind of guess what's going to happen. Anyway, so I had an interview with them, and I was lucky enough to get the job. And then a couple of weeks later, I was introduced to the team, and it was part of the research department. It's kind of a post-research thing going on. And then I was introduced to a guy that looked really very familiar, and I couldn't kind of work out where I'd seen him before until he took me almost hand in hand to a load of A4 paper, which my job initially was then going to fill a trolley up and then wheel it over that zebra crossing. It's a big lesson, life lesson really there. So I ended up moving paper for a little bit at the BBC. But what that did give me was a real opportunity to get to know people. This is a relationship business. Get a real sense of what you wanted to do. I was very lucky that I managed to get a job in the research department proper at a time where there was one computer. I was typing on manual typewriters. We got really excited about when we got an electric typewriter, which actually didn't need Tipex. Now, you guys, Tipex is a kind of a fluid thing that... So the BBC, got into the research department. The research department was kind of like an audience-y research thing. So I learnt the dark art of market research, and for me, an essential grounding to my broadcasting career. Knowing your audience, knowing your target, knowing your customer. So I was very lucky. I had a new job every year, and I was there for 7 years. So I was working in the research department proper. And then I had an invitation to join Granada Television, still in the research department, but working far more closely with program makers. At that point in time, this is 1989. I know most of you weren't born, but the other thing was 1982. You really weren't born then. So the Granada was the most glorious thing. So in those days, that's where Coronation Street was being made. It was the real birth of a load of great new format shows like Stars in Their Eyes, the first time round, You've Been Framed, and then in the drama world, we had something called Prime Suspect. It was just a real heyday. I was based in Golden Square in London and did a lot of travelling up and down, up to Manchester and Liverpool. Then there was something called the franchise era, where in 1992, the government decided to actually put all the ITV franchises up for bid, and Thames, which was the weekday franchise in London, lost it, and Carlton Television was born. And I then helped go in and launch Carlton TV, still in research at this point. And I was there for 3.5 years. Now, I had been working with a lot of sort of kids stuff up until that point, but the big kids break was when Disney Channel came over from the US in 1995, and I got a job with them to help launch the channel over in the UK then, and I was there for 5 years. This was an interesting period then, because all my research experience had really lent itself into the editorial process, and I was blessed to work with some of the greatest creative minds in that way, but it was only after my Disney career that I actually became in charge of the creative process proper, where I became channel editor for Fox Kids. And I was there for a bit. And then UK TV, which has channels like Dave and Gold and things like that. And I was originally going to be there with them for a year, and then I stayed there for 10. Until I got a phone call 3 years ago from Nickelodeon to say, do I want to join them and look after their editorial for their 4 channels. And we had a good chat, and the rest is history. So that is in a very, very brief sort of nutshell my career. The lesson I think I really want to say to you students out there is that anything is possible. I genuinely believe anything is possible. It is about being really clear in your mind where you want to go. It doesn't mean if you get there, you have to stay there. I mean, that's the most important thing. Some people get scared if they actually focus on getting to there, that's it. It's not. You can always change your mind. But the point is that energy and focus should be directed at a certain point, otherwise it can dissipate a bit. The other thing, don't be scared of failure. Really, one of the most important things, I mean, there are catchphrases about, the most successful people fail more than unsuccessful people, all that kind of stuff, but it really is a point of failure is about learning. So don't ever be scared. And as I said, really decide what you want to do, have a good plan, ring people up. Someone talked about internships earlier, which was a great session earlier, I thought. It is difficult. There are a lot of people who want to do internships, but it is about networking and building those relationships. So find out what company you want to work for, or companies, who you need to talk to, go to events like this and talk to them. Build that relationship. Keep on trying. Okay. Right, enough of that. Now, in terms of I had a lot of research, as you know, and the research for me really does and is a real foundation of what we do, understand your audience. So I am going to take you through what we did for some animation work that we did. Nicktoons, our animation channel, main audience is boys from about 6 to 8, really. And we thought, well, let's find out about what these boys think. And I thought I'd show you the top 10 rules of boyhood. And I've got them written down because they're quite specific. Number 1. So remember, this is not boys as in men who haven't grown up. This is basically 6 to 8-year-old boys. It's rubbish or cool. So number 1, it's rubbish or cool and there's nothing between. So very black and white. If my older brother has it, I want it. If my younger brother has discovered it, it's time to move on. There is no going back unless it's completely and utterly new or feels different visually, structurally, or in its execution. Always aspire up. So like, got to watch post-watershed content. Farting, burping, rude, gross, it's funny. There are no second chances. You've got 5 or 10 seconds in which to amaze me. I'm not going to take risks if I can be laughed at. Girls are stupid. Technology is God. Be the winner, have the most, be the best. So there are the 10 rules that we sort of came up with. Some would say it doesn't stop at 8. It just carries on forever. But it's really kind of understanding about. So when you're drawing or building stories and so on, think about who you're actually targeting. I think, for me, I meet so many people and the story is good or it looks beautiful, but who are you writing for? So from little boys to big boys. This guy, I don't know if many of you know who he is. He's called the Governor, Lenny McLean. He's the bodyguard of the Cray twins, way back. And when I was working for Granada Television, I used to go to, this is sort of back end 80s, early 90s, so, still we frequented a wine bar a lot. And suddenly, this particular wine bar called Butler's in the West End, this guy appeared, Lenny McLean. And apparently he'd just got out of jail, and the network had basically said, right, we'll look after Lenny. We'll go and get him to bounce a couple of clubs around the place. And so he suddenly appeared, and he put his arms around my friend of mine, and he said, lads, I'm not going to have any problems with you, am I? I'm not going to tell you the high pitchedness of my voice when I replied no, but he didn't get any problem from us at all. But the reason why he's here, there's actually 2 reasons, but the first reason why he's here is because he used to tell brilliant stories. He was a great storyteller. Now, he was the bare-knuckle champion of the UK, and he might have been a bit punch-drunk, and he might have repeated himself, but I would never, ever tell him that. In fact, no one ever told him that. But he told the most wonderful stories about his experiences of when he was young and when he was with the Crays. And the essence of so much of what we have here and what we experience here is about the story. So important. I think the story transcends. Whatever media, technology will happen, the story will hold true. It's something that the Irish are most wonderful at. But it is something that will transcend everything else. I've met, as I said, a lot of companies who've shown me some most wonderful looking content, but has no heart or no story. And that just does not work for me. So, you've got your idea, and you have an opportunity to pitch. So what the hell is the person you're pitching to thinking when you pitch to them? I've had experiences of speed dating, speed pitching, in terms of people come to us, they've got 15 or 5 minutes or 15 minutes to put forward the idea. It is the most horrible experience for most. Some just forget what they're called, let alone what they're trying to pitch. And it's not the best way of playing it, but I want just a little bit of an insight. You can have this when I wrap up here, just to sort of take away. So when you're sitting in front of me, these are the things, broadly speaking, that I'm thinking about. First and foremost is, am I hooked by the story? What is it about the story? And then I'm thinking about, well, if we do go down that road of commissioning and I get it through various layers of the Nickelodeon way, I want to understand about, one, have I got the budget? I'm able to repeat this. Is it sustainable? Is it a one-off, or can we push this to 104 episodes? And as I said, I can give you this later. You don't have to take pictures of it. You can if you want to. But there are a number of things. And then, of course, I work for a very commercial company, so there's something called consumer products, which we think we met anyone in the room who was talking, we've heard about the Peppa Pig making $1 billion in 10 years. That is something that I do think about. It's not always necessary, but I do think about it. So have a think. It's not just about, this wonderful show that you bring to the table. This is about, okay, so how am I going to convince this guy that this is worth a second conversation or a third conversation, or how is he going to pitch it internally? So have a think about it. And we'll talk about this later in terms of how the hell do you act in front of me, but the most important thing if you ever do, or whoever it might be, these are some of the points you should think about when you're pitching. What I was going to do earlier, and which I forgot, and then he's basically thinking, oh no, he's remembered. I'm just going to go back to Lenny. The reason I'm going to go back to Lenny is because, not many of you know this, but there is a gentleman amongst us who bears a very striking resemblance to him. And I'm going to, where is he? So the beautiful thing is that it's also associated with Jam Media. So I'd like Chris Dicker, please, to come up, please. I'd like to stand up, come with me.
I'll come around this
yeah.
Guarantee.
Okay. And I'd like Chris to strike the pose, and I assure you, we have cried many MIP sessions.
There's ways and means of getting deals off this guy.
So
you need to put your arm around them like this and say, we're not going to get any trouble out of it.
So for all of us here, if you can strike the pose, please. There we go.
The things you have to do to get deals off Nickelodeon.
That's nothing. So, you got your idea. You're into the pitch. You're passionate about the baby, the idea, the story that you've got. So you start doing the tour. You go around to anyone you can meet. You get into the studios. You get to see us, and it's as someone mentioned, it's a Peppa Pig 3 years and mega mortgages and all that kind of stuff to sort of get her off the ground. So you're there. And you've got the design in your cardboard box. And you're suddenly talking about this world that you've created, and you're passionate. Passion's really important here, by the way. And actually I was speaking to someone yesterday, Colin from 16 South, in fact, and we basically summed up the keynote in three things. So it is about passion, great storytelling, and alcohol. So you're passionate about what you're presenting, and it is so contagious and so very important to believe in what you are presenting. And so there's a lovely story that happened a good number of years ago now, like 15 years ago now. And this guy, he had a couple of careers. He went to college and he had a certain degree on to give it away, and then he also learned a little bit about animation. He got involved in bits and pieces, and then suddenly he had the opportunity to present this particular idea. Inspired in so many ways, but completely out there. He detailed what this particular land would look like, the characters, the extraordinary kind of variety and diversity of characterization. Completely wacky. And I really wonder if it would be commissioned today. I really hope it would. When it was launched 15 years ago, it took about 18 months to really start kicking in. It was a show which now, after 15 years, is still very, very ever present. But this man, who was a marine biologist, had a passion to bring something of his, not only to the screens, but also just to life in many ways. And I think many of you will recognise this. But this is a prime example of someone with tenacity who carried on. I mean, there's all sorts of stories depending on who you speak with about this, but broadly speaking, he brought his idea to the table. Lady Luck shined a wee bit. It was also loved, and the rest is history. So really kind of very important to, when you do have your ideas, never be put off. Always hold on to that burning desire. The flip side of that too is also listen. You know, it is quite difficult to have your baby criticised, but it's kind of important to listen to in order to actually to get it on air. Now, I'm going to leave some time for some Q&A for those listening, but another reason why I'm sure sort of John invited me up here was the fact that in recent times, Nickelodeon has got involved with a number of companies from Ireland. I think what you are all producing is, you know, second to none. We had the luxury of, about 3, well, I suppose it's nearly 3 years ago now, but Colin from 16 South sent an idea through to my team. I'd only been there a couple of weeks. And it was put on my desk and said, look, we really love this, what do you think? And I said, you know what, this is absolutely fantastic. Let's go for it. Since then, Driftwood Bay, as it was then, turned into Lily's Driftwood Bay, and we have one season and another season being made as we speak. Colin and his team are very proud recipients of the Broadcast Award for Best Preschool Show, which I'm absolutely delighted for him, and well worth it. Anyone who's not familiar with it as a show, it is a beautiful story about Lily and her father and her imagination. Stellar cast. And the show in itself is made from bits and pieces found on the beach, and I think, again, that really sets us apart from a lot of shows out there at the moment. And I'm just going to show a little clip, just to remind you, anyone who hasn't seen it, just to remind you what it looks like.
Oh, hi, I'm Lily. I live here with my dad.
Hi, Lily.
And my best friend, Gull. Sea treasures. Every day, a new adventure washes up on the beach. Maybe a game across the way from Driftwood Bay. Come on, Gull.
All aboard for Driftwood Bay.
Aye, Captain Salty. Come with us and meet our friends. Nola. Hello, dear. Hattie. Hello. Lord Star.
Hello,
Wee Rabbit. Hi, Lily. Puffin. The Squeaky Mouse.
Gonna get you.
And my friend.
Hi, Lily.
Join Lily and friends for the brand new show, Lily's Driftwood Bay, only on Nick Jr.
I think a round of applause for 6. Next, Puffin Rock. We've talked a lot about Puffin Rock today. Again, around the same sort of time, it crossed my desk, and we were just blessed really with the talent that came with it. Dog Ears, Cartoon Saloon, Penguin, a real, for me, a fantastic opportunity to work again with some very, very talented people. But also the important thing here was to, this particular project, really sort of captured the imagination. And the more I saw of it, the more, I fell in love with it. This is an example of a show I commissioned the second season before. I said, look, let's go a second season before, the first one actually played, which is quite rare to do, certainly in a commercial broadcasting landscape. But for me as well, as I am a commercial broadcaster, I needed a brand to play with. So you do need a certain number of episodes to sort of build that brand. So we have, I know it's like RTE, and I hear it's doing really well. I can't wait. I'm going to show you a clip, which is something that, I don't know how many of you have seen it before, but I can just show it over and over again. It's just so beautiful. A little story about Puffin. Paul came to Nick to basically sell the show to the international group. And unbeknownst to me, previously I'd actually done a piece to camera about how much I love Puffin Rock, and I found myself selling to myself. He did apologise. So by the way you're in this selling to your team, it's very, very well experienced. So, so Puffin Rock, prime example, beautiful storytelling. And again, thank you for making me cry last night as well. There are overtones to Songs of the Sea as well, and it's a show which I really do think will do wonderful things. So I'm just going to show a little bit.
The underworld, full of beautiful blue moths, magical mayflies, and seriously slimy slugs. You have to watch out for those. Jumping on the bed, there's nothing like it. Yep, it's definitely an egg. A puffin egg, maybe.
It's not a puffin egg, they're white, not blue.
That's what I was thinking, actually. It's definitely not a puffin egg. Aha! It's phytoplankton. Tiny little creatures that live in the sea and light up when they're moved around. Like a big underwater fireworks display.
Now, I know there's a theme, and just because it's something to do with the sea does not mean I'm going to commission it. So don't come to me with just loads of sea stuff, even though I do have a passion for the sea. So next up is the Day Henry Met, produced, created by Wiggly Woo, another Irish company. Really kind of early stages. I've got a little bit of a clip to show you, but we're delighted that we can we have, again, you know, it's an opportunity to work with a smaller studio, fairly new-ish themselves. They've done a couple of things that you might be familiar with, but this, I think, is one of their first series, and a real opportunity. And the benefit, you know, the benefit of Nickelodeon. I know that, you know, there is Disney and Turner and ourselves and a number of different broadcasters. But what we do help with, you know, whether it's BBC, is a brand name. An association with a brand name just helps, and I'm very conscious of that too. So hopefully, you know, with certainly in financing deals, when you do have a lot of people say, look, you know, just give us a nod and a wink, because that will help us unlock certain cash. And I'm very aware of our responsibility over that. So Day Henry Met, about a little boy. It's got unique animation style, and about his adventures on a day-to-day basis. And this little clip now will just give you a flavour of what it looks like.
That gives me great ideas, Neil. I come from an astronaut, a farmer, a mountain climber, a deep sea diver, a fireman.
That's a great idea,
And last but not least, a show from Jam Media, who I remember we were talking about this, it seems like for months now. But when I first saw this show, it was called Early Bird. The style of animation, the uniqueness of it, the opportunity that I felt it represented us was palpable. You could really feel it. These type of shows, of course, as the Jam crew will let you tell you, is it's a real roller coaster. So there's okay, Tim, really interested, great. What do we do next? And I listen to quiet, and God, how quiet it is when you're on the other side. And then we have the guys we met in MIP, and there is international interest, and then of course there's quiet and so on. But the journey in itself has been a very interesting one from both sides about how to get a wonderful idea to a point where it can get to air. And I'm delighted that that I got a phone call and nod and a wink from John and the crew to say that they have got a deal with Nickelodeon globally, which from my point of view is a just fantastic result and well deserved. An extraordinary example of something that I think is a unique way of representing storytelling. The clip I'm going to show is that was a test. It's beautifully paced. It's going to be paced more, but it gives you a real flavour of what it looks like. So any of you who haven't seen it will get a real sense of what this is all about. With all of those shows, and there are others as well that we're working with, come from Ireland. And I think in many ways you should all be extremely proud of yourselves for delivering and creating such wonderful, in this instance, preschool. But I think there is such opportunity to be had, whether or not you're just starting out in your careers or whether you've been around for a while. The way in which technology has now offered us a challenge does not take away from the fact that it's still going to be about storytelling. I think there is more opportunity than ever before to interact with our younger audiences especially. And I think the future is really, I was going to say really bright, it's really orange, but that would be naff in many ways in that way. But it is really bright. I think that from a broadcaster's point of view, the challenges are how am I going to provide information, provide content and entertainment to the masses in a way that they want me to at this point. So my daughter, for instance, she has 3 screens on her person at any one time, forever. She is now, focused a lot through YouTube and vlogging and all that kind of thing, and it is really about the bigger broadcasters working out what does that mean. Having such beautiful shows to spearhead and to make sure that audiences still come in is what it's all about. So I'm just going to show this short clip of Peppers. Thank you. course, is like whatever you say, whatever you do, you're lucky if anyone remembers a couple of things. So what I want you to remember really is that you can do whatever you want to do. Passionate believer in that. Take risks. Hold on to that passion of yours, and don't be scared of failure. Because really, genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, I really do believe that if you want something, you put a stake in the ground, and I'm really directing this at you, you can achieve what you want to achieve. There are always going to be knockbacks. That's the way it plays. It's life. Doesn't matter. Pick yourself up and just carry on. So that's what I want you to remember. Okay? So, big thank you. Thank you very much. If anyone wants to ask me, if your stomachs can hold it, please ask.
Is kind of more adult-oriented series kind of still too much of a risk?
No, I mean, we focused on animation today, but we have a strapline at Nickelodeon where it's from nappies to skinny jeans. I think skinny jeans, I don't know if they're out now. I mean, whatever. So we do have the range up to about 12. So preschool to 12. When you're talking about more sort of adult, what do you mean?
Well, there's kind of only like Seth MacFarlane and stuff, and like The Simpsons and South Park, and maybe like.
I think it's good. So Nickelodeon has a view that we will show. I have a compliance department that really looks at for a 12-year-old, what does that look like? And for Nickelodeon, because it won't be just the 12-year-old that will be viewing, you might actually have younger siblings and so on and so forth. We need to be very, very clear about what we can and what we can't show. In terms of pushing the boundaries a bit, I'm very happy with that, but there is a line. As long as I can speak to Ofcom if they knock on my door and say, are you sure that this is suitable, and I feel hand on heart that it is, then I have to sort of go down that road. The other thing, of course, is for the likes of Family Guy and Simpsons and so on. That is almost a different platform, but in the animation world, it's certainly something that, again, great storytelling. My sister companies are MTV and Comedy Central, so there's a hell of a lot of opportunity within those areas too. But no, whatever you feel good about in terms of your storytelling technique and style, if you want to sort of age it up, make it a bit more risque, go for it. A lot of the time, if you have an idea which is a bit risque, sometimes you say, look, don't come to me because I'll dilute it down, it might lose its essence. But there's always going to be it should be always a home.
It seemed like Frederator were kind of doing that with online series and not so much on TV. And I don't know if it's maybe just because teenagers don't watch it on TV.
No, I feel like, again, the way that the online world or the non-linear world is moving, everyone here can have their own channel. When I was talking to someone last night about when in the 80s, I was thinking, right, if I was to own my own channel, it would cost me about 50 million to start up or something. And now, of course, we've gone down to the point where it doesn't cost anything to start a channel. Just go on YouTube and create your own. I think that's wonderful on so many levels because it means that the entry point for creativity is ground zero, which is fantastic. The good ideas will always come to the top. I think it's a fantastic opportunity, fantastic world. It gives me the chance to see lots of things. My challenge is time. Is to see as much of it as possible. I think with so many of us here, it's that time.
Thanks.
So I just had a question about censorship, because there's a big issue with censorship at the moment that some people are thinking that maybe some kid shows are pushing the boundaries a bit too much, and that there's that sort of mentality. I'm just wondering what your opinion is on it.
We take it it's a serious thing. We have to take it very, very seriously. There is also an element of subjectivity, but we are quite clear, or my compliance department is quite clear about what we find acceptable and what not. So if you came to me with an idea, let's say, I would, and we thought it was a little bit risque, we would consider it in the round. But we have had, preschool. Even though it wasn't contentious with Driftwood Bay, we had an episode about death, which for a young preschooler, we talked a lot about it. Didn't get any we had, for instance, positivity coming out of that episode. It was beautifully written, and a beautiful example of how you can actually take a subject which could seem to be fairly dark and actually tell it in a way that is sensitive and one that's very acceptable. For big Nickelodeon in live action, where there's a lot more risky stuff, there are certain themes that we are very pleased that we entertain. It's homosexuality, subtly done, kissing. There are lines to be drawn. I think as long as it is sensitively done and contextualized, then the boundaries can be pushed a bit. But it's something that we spend a lot of time considering. But that has always been.
Sorry, it's always within a sensibility that you treat it as a mature, you have a very mature attitude towards it rather than pushing the boundary just because you can.
That's more the point, but there is certainly a line drawn. There certainly has to be a line drawn, otherwise there's no parameters at all. But all things are considered very seriously.
The last few years there's been a lot more shows that have been popular with children but also adults, like Adventure Time, Avatar, Legend of Korra, that sort of thing. Which I think it's important to aim the show at one age group but leave it open for other groups to enjoy it as well, or aim at everyone that kind of way.
I was talking to someone this morning about what I prefer. When I talk to anyone about when teaching this, I say what sort of age group, everyone gives me a range. Sometimes the range is really, really, or the beta, does that mean anything?
No, I think just
No.
ignore it. Yeah, thank you.
So, and the reason why I like it's a good question actually. So, what I like to hear is someone talking about age-specific stuff. But of course, when you focus on a single age, then of course you're going to have depth and breadth to it as well. So I like the idea of you writing to an age. Certainly within the preschool environment, if you're talking about 2 to 5, I mean that's 2-year-olds are very different from 5-year-olds, So write to an age, it's just a preference, and if the storytelling is great and layered, it's going to attract either side anyway. So that's fine. Any more for any more? It's time to take over. Okay, we're done. Thank you very much.